Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Professors, doctors, brothers and sisters, thank you so much for joining me in one of e-learning clinic session in Zoom on recording and managing interactivity for video lecture. Let me go through everything again in this video lecture just in case anyone missed some of the parts during the hands-on session. But before that, let me go through the 5 benefits of video lecture that we've gone through during the session. So by having the video lecture, it allows the students to learn at their pace that they feel comfortable, because they can pause, they can fast forward, they can rewind the content that we've created up until they understand the concept clearly. The video lectures can also help students to stimulate their ability to self-study, because just by reading the book, sometimes the students have different understanding of what is the concept being described or how the object is actually being described. So having a multi-dimensional objects with a voice directions that we have in the video, it would facilitate their understanding a lot more better. The next one is assisting the mastery learning. Research has found that by having interactive features in the modern web-based media, it can actually promote the active viewing. So for example, if you have the video posted in Edpuzzle, in which it can actually stop at certain points and ask the students questions, you can sort of ensure that the students have understood the concept better when they answer the questions correctly, for example. So there are notions of active viewing embedded into the media. And also by having the video lectures, it's actually increased the students' motivation, again reported by previous research. By having the digital video reporting, it can actually inspire and engage students, especially when it is incorporated into student-centered learning. So by having video reporting, you can ask the students to describe things, to explain, to elaborate. On the same time, they can actually be exposed to how to record and edit videos, so they can be exposed to the use of technology. Last, elearningstudy.com reported that by having audiovisual content, it can actually improve the process of information retention, which is much better as compared to textual content or visual content only. When it comes to recording video lecture, there are 2 must-have for us as a lecturers. The first one is the will, of course, and the patience. It's not so much that I want to describe it as an difficult undertaking, but recording videos as well as editing the videos, sometimes it takes time. So to prepare slides, the scripts, and editing the video itself will need a patience. Keep in mind there are some things that I'm going to highlight later on, which obviously will make your preparations different as when you go to face-to-face sessions as compared to video lectures. Another thing that another must-have is, of course, the equipment. We need to have, if you want to record yourself as part of the video lectures, then you obviously would need a camera, a microphone, and in most today laptop they would have those 2 embedded. There are some tips to consider, however, when you are recording video lectures. The first one is to keep it simple, keep the font size simple, which is big enough for everyone to read from laptops or from mobile phones. So in this case, in my video lectures, I recorded this font as 18, so I don't go below 18, just to make sure students using mobile phone, they can still see the point clearly. And also the font type, keep it simple, avoid to use any fancy font type which will make the students harder to read. And the screen color, be careful with the too bright screen color, because certain eyes may have difficulties to read on certain colors, and especially if you put dark fonts on dark background, that would again introduce some level of difficulties for students with visual impaired to actually go through the points that you are trying to highlight in your slides. Another one is to use visual cues, for example like arrows or pointers. Okay, let me just give an example of this. Okay, so this is one of the visual cues, for example. So you can actually have that in your video lectures. You can record that visual cues in your video lecture, so the students can actually focus on certain points that you want to emphasize throughout your video lecture. The next one is to replace text with images, video or audio whenever possible, because again, as I highlighted earlier, by having audio visual, it can actually allow the students to visual the points or the concept that you are trying to highlight, or the object that you are trying to highlight in a much more effective way. The next one is to keep it short. I believe I have highlighted in one of my teaser that the attention span that students can focus on video lectures is shorter than when it is in a class, because you can read the body language. If they get distracted, you can sort of call their names and make sure they can refocus on your lecture, for example. But we don't have that privilege if it's in the video lecture, so you can keep it short. You can have a few 10 minutes video or a few 5 minutes video, which then can allow them to focus on the one point at a time, for example. The next one is to pay attention on your surroundings. Just make sure there's no posters at the back that will distract the students from your video lectures, or any noise in the background that actually again will make them hard to listen to what's supposed to be heard. And also pay attention on the room lighting, especially if you're recording yourself. Just be careful with the room lighting, because we don't want to have the room is too dim for the students to can actually see you properly, if you're showing some objects in front of you, and there's possibility the students may not be able to see the objects properly because of the lack of lighting in your room. And be aware of your eye level. Ideally, you should make sure that if you want to have your hands or your face recorded, so make sure that during the recording the whole thing is actually captured by the camera, because we don't want to have certain level of your face was not recorded properly because the eye level was not adjusted, area which camera can capture. And last, of course, consider having a good quality microphone. There's certain microphone which have the noise cancellation, so only the noise that is close to the microphone will be recorded properly with high quality. I think we would want to go with that kind of microphone rather than the microphone which basically records the whole thing in the room. So I would recommend to invest perhaps on having a good quality of microphone.